Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Juice Box. I, of course, am Juice Springsteen, and it has been a little while since we've had a standalone episode here in the Juice Box. Of course, we are always putting out new content regardless, whether it's Drew and Juice or the SIP series or Main Event Maniacs, and we'll be talking about Main Event Maniacs here in a moment, or, you know, our predictions shows that we have, which we always enjoy doing. Josh Eisenberg, Justin LeBar, whoever may come in, we always are thrilled to have them on for those types of episodes. But yes, it's been a little bit since we've had a solo episode. We're going to cover quite a bit in this episode, but I would, again, wager without much direction in regards to where all these things go. We're going to, promote some things, talk about some things in AEW, talk about some stuff in WWE, kind of go all around the pro wrestling world as we have a lot going on and a lot coming up. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can also check out my Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. And subscribe to the Juice Box via YouTube at Juicy Steen. In addition to that, I always do say, if you can listen to the Juice Box wherever you can, please do. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com. And if you do get a chance to rate and review the episode on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you do listen to podcasts, please do. It really does help the show grow. Wow, we have a lot to touch on. I'm going to try to keep it somewhat, held in check, but if I forget something, I might have to come back to it or I'll shift off to another spot. So we'll, bear with me here. But first and foremost, we've got a couple of Main Event Maniacs episodes coming down the pike here in the next couple of weeks. Now, that does not mean there won't be any Juice Box episodes necessarily, but depending on schedules, and I'll be out of town a couple of times here within the next couple of weeks, that's where these episodes might fall in, and they're also going to be just placed in there anyway. We have 3 Main Event Maniacs episodes ready to go that are going to be coming out in the next 3 weeks with a potential for a 4th in 4 weeks, but not there yet. We have upcoming, I believe, I'm not going to go in, I'm not too sure in the order just yet, but I will say the 3 episodes that we have coming down the pike. You will get to listen to Main Event Maniacs Jay and Brian discuss Judgment Day 05, John Cena versus JBL I Quit match. Brian was in the building for that show, and I always recall it as a very violent match. It was the first match of Cena as WWE Champion, which is apropos considering he is now a 17-time champion going to defend that championship at Night of Champions. So that will be coming up, and then another week after that. So I would say these are in order. We've got Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, what have you. July 6th, 1998, Georgia Dome, WCW Monday Nitro for the world title. This was one of the biggest matches, if not the biggest match WCW ever put on TV that was not pay-per-view, and it's a hell of a spectacle. And to hear those guys run it down, give all the ins and outs, the behind the scenes, the lead up, what they could have done better, all that great stuff that Brian and Jay do every single time we get a Main Event Maniacs episode out there. They will do that. I am thrilled, in addition to those 2 episodes, to have been a part of this following episode that I will be discussing. or putting out there that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. Super Brawl 3 WCW Vader versus Sting in the White Castle of Fear strap match. This is a brutal match. We touch on a lot of things. I do think it's the longest Main Event Maniacs episode that we've ever done, and I would wager that's because of my inclusion. I like to chat a bit. That's why I do this podcast every week. But we really touch on some good stuff, and I feel like we cover quite a bit that is maybe, if you haven't seen that match, go out of your way and watch the match. Strap in, get some commentary from, yours truly and the Main Event Maniacs guys. It's not a, live commentary per se like I did for Havoc 94 last fall, but this is definitely a companion piece for that match, Super Brawl 3. So it was nice to hop in there with the guys. First time, for me, doing Main Event Maniacs as a member of the trio, as it were. So that was pretty exciting to do. I do want to say, I know this is a little early, but I want to just promote this, get the word out there now. I'll be continuously promoting it when I get a chance. July 21st, Monday night, across their YouTube platforms, the Shining Wizards podcasts, where a bunch of dudes, I think they've got 4 in their rotation right now, because one of the longer tenured guys just retired, I guess, for lack of a better term. But they are a great group of guys and girls, the whole team that they have there, who talk wrestling every Monday night, but they also got, they're all over the place. A bunch of different people hop in there from time to time. I know Kate from Fightful, and I know Apron Bump's been on there. They've done interviews with wrestlers. I know Dr. Redacted's been in there. So many different people have gone in there. I was in there one time for a quick spot a couple of months ago to discuss some WCW stuff, and I had a great time with those guys. Well, July 21st, I will be having the first incarnation of what will be a recurring segment, but, every couple of weeks. It's not going to be every week. It'll just be every now and again, which is fine. I like kind of sparing it out and spreading, I don't want to put myself out there too much where you spread yourself thin, but I do like contributing to other spots wherever I can. So every now and again, I will be on the Shining Wizards podcast, Inside the Juice Box. So a little, inside what I've got going on, what's going on in the pro wrestling world. Interesting things going back and forth. I'm sure we'll talk about WCW, probably bring up the Vault. Cool things happening on the YouTube, whatever's happening currently that I've got an opinion on. But Inside the Juice Box will be a little segment, a part of the normal Shining Wizards broadcast and podcast that they do every Monday night. So July 21st, put it on your calendar, check it out. Yours truly, Inside the Juice Box. Outside of that, I think, we should get going with the regularly scheduled programming, talking the week that was in pro wrestling, a lot of stuff. Before we do that, though, there's no Drew and Juice this week, so that's another reason why I'm getting to get this solo episode out there. No matter what, I try to get some sort of content out. However, if I do a episode with Drew, sometimes I feel if I do it on my own as well, it might come off a little redundant. So I kind of play that how I can, especially if it's predictions time. You're going to get the predictions episode no matter what. But yeah, a lot of things going on. We just had Worlds Collide, Money in the Bank, all in one weekend, which was wonderful. And now we are setting up a lot going forward, including Night of Champions in 2 weeks, June 28th. We've got, personally here for me, TNA going to Pittsburgh, back-to-back nights, next Friday and Saturday. And then Raw and a taping of SmackDown taking place June 30th here in Pittsburgh. And additionally, July 12th, all in Texas. I will be traveling down there. I will be at Globe Life Field for the spectacle of spectacles that will be All In Texas, the biggest show in the U.S. for AEW. To this point, it's going to be a happening for sure. Let's actually start with AEW, and we'll close out with some WWE, especially considering as I'm recording this, we are in the midst of SmackDown. So any interesting stuff that could potentially happen, I will absolutely report back. But let's start off with some AEW stuff. Pretty much the stuff we're going to touch on is based around All In Texas. They've got 3 matches set up. They've had 2 back-to-back weeks of 4 straight hours of Dynamite and Collision. And, I mean, I'll just kind of go over some of those news and notes. We've got MJF, being MVP, which I thought was a really, really cool vehicle for, their new Hurt Syndicate of MJF being added in and having him, now prove himself, be a part of the team more often than not. And like I said, dressing up as MVP with that gear that MVP used to wear, doing the mannerisms, hitting, the ball and taunt. A lot of good stuff there as well. But the main 3 matches already signed for All In Texas. Are you ready for this? Timeless Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné for the AEW Women's World Championship. This is a spot where, Moné has run through every single opponent that she has had in her way up until this point for over a year now. And it doesn't, will it stop? We don't know. I had this argument, with Drew where does the Jade Cargill TBS Championship reign factor into this Moné run? Where do they want Moné to pass Jade's record of being champion purely so that they have a star in their company currently with that record? I think that makes sense. It kind of, some people might think it's petty for them to, let's wait so Jade doesn't have the record, but I think it's purely for the record books, and I think they're better off that way. I've said that before with WWE, where Demolition doesn't have a record anymore. The longest IC title reign is Gunther's now. 17 championships for Cena. Like, all these records are now newer talent, current talent, and that's how I think WWE is going to operate, and I would wager AEW could and should follow suit. Looking forward to that match, though. Toni and Moné. I just don't know what's going to happen, We're not going to do predictions just yet, but I have not a bad feeling, but I do have a feeling that we could see Moné walking out with another title. However, this is the perfect vehicle for Moné to lose a match and still be TBS champion. I don't know. We'll see. It's just, it's too close. It's too close to call at the moment. AEW unification match for the Unified Championship. I think that's what they're going to call this new championship title belt, is the Unified Championship. So not only is the Continental and International Championships being combined into one unified title, but it's going to be called the Unified title, which you could have called it the United title or the Intercontinental. They're not, crossing into any of those realms. They're going to keep it with Unified, which is an interesting name, and maybe it'll grow on me, but title design is unique. Kind of reminds me of the WCW World title from 91 to 94. Kind of. I know some people disagreed. Brian, I'm looking at you. But Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega. This is their 5th match against each other, one-on-one. If you watched AEW the other night, they had a great video package where Okada got the first win. Then it went to a draw. And then Kenny won in the G1. Then Kenny won the championship. And we're at a point now where it's 2-1-1. Who knows what'll happen? But I have a feeling this match is going to be one hell of a match. And of course, I'd be remiss. Hangman Adam Page takes on Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. Hangman trying to dethrone Jon Moxley. Mox has been on a tear and, a reign of terror, for lack of a better term, for quite a long time. And, we thought maybe it was going to be Darby Allin. Darby has climbed Everest. Maybe Darby could help a guy like Hangman win the championship. I think there's a lot of guys that could help Hangman potentially win the championship. But I do think we are getting to the end of the Death Rider Jon Moxley reign at All In. The Cowboy winning in Texas. It just makes sense. I think a lot of negative discourse would be taking place if it does not happen at All In. So we'll find out. Again, we will see who and when, could someone help? Could someone distract There's a lot of different ways they could go about this. Like I said, I don't know what necessarily I'm going to choose as to win. I think Hangman's the leader in the clubhouse, to use a golf term, as the U.S. Open is currently being taken place about 40 minutes north of me at Oakmont, one of the toughest golf courses in the world, if you are a fan of golf. But yeah, those 3 matches for AEW All in Texas are insane, and literally any of the 3 matches could be a main event for a regular AEW pay-per-view. So I am very curious to see a card that's got not only those 3 matches, but probably 5, 6, 7 more matches on it that are going to be stacked. I think there's a shot we see Blood and Guts. We just saw Anarchy in the arena. But I think we could see Blood and Guts. I think we could see, a few more title matches. You might get a surprise. You could see a Casino Gauntlet match. There's so much going on that I think AEW is going to try to tap into for All in Texas. And I am ecstatic to be there in person. Looking forward to Globe Life Field. My second ever trip to Dallas. My first being WrestleMania 32 2016. That is a weekend I will never forget for a multitude of reasons. And I had a great time in Dallas, and I'm looking forward to another trip down there. So outside of that, AEW, like I said, really kicking things into high gear. They've got the AAA show coming up, which is very exciting. I believe that's next week, if I'm not mistaken. The AAA Arena Mexico, or the not AAA, CMLL show is June 18th. It's going to happen in Mexico City. So that is happening. And I believe there are a few matches, actually 6 matches lined up for that, and I'll name them now. MJF versus Mystico. Zeusis versus Mercedes Moné for the CMLL World Women's title. Wow, I have a bad feeling that Moné is going to win that match. 10-man tag, Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, and the Ops, Hobbs, Shibata, Joe versus the Young Bucks. Yuta, Castagnoli, and Jon Moxley. We've got a 12-man tag match. Adam Cole, Atlantis Jr., Bandito, Brody King, Daniel Garcia, and Templario versus Don Callis family of Hechicero, Josh Alexander, Konosuke Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and FTR. A singles match, Kazuchika Okada takes on Mark Briscoe. And then we get a 4-way match, which I believe was the 2 million or 4 million peso match. Mascara Dorada versus Ricochet versus Hologram versus Leo Rush. Grand Slam Mexico. next Wednesday. That is going to be spectacular as well. So, man, AEW trying to just go week to week, build up more stars, build up more matches, build the stories as we culminate to potentially 20 to 25,000 in attendance for AEW All in Texas. So it's going to be wild. It's going to be a fun atmosphere down there for sure. So let's transition into WWE. And we'll start off with something akin to Grand Slam Mexico, which was the Worlds Collide show. WWE, AAA, and man, this was a wonderful show. Really big props to Conan, to Corey Graves for commentating the entire night, really doing a wonderful job describing what Lucha Libre is, how it's gotten so big, why it's so tradition-based, who these guys are, what they're about. And I just think that these two guys did what Mike Tenay did back in 1994 for Worlds Collide. I thought they did a wonderful job describing all those wonderful pieces of business and helping the program forward. And I think it helped. If you didn't get to catch it, I very much would catch it on YouTube for free. And, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the biggest highlight of Worlds Collide, truthfully, outside of Chad Gable, who had an incredible match against Vikingo, potentially, El Grande Americano. He also had a great match later on at Money in the Bank. But the guy I'd like to talk about that did so much to help himself and honestly just help the brand of Lucha Libre, Mr. Iguana. This guy took over the internet within 5 minutes of being on TV. He has been around for quite a while, has wrestled for quite a while all over the world, very successful, and he was so damn over. He's super charismatic. I love the Iguana bit. It's just WWE sees stuff like this and they try to capitalize on it on their own with their own talent. And then, maybe they don't strike when the iron's hot necessarily. You get this guy on TV for one match, and they're already making shirts. Now, I know they made shirts for everybody, but there are rumors that Iguana's going to potentially go to NXT or skip NXT, be a part of main roster things on WWE programming. And I don't care if he's just a comedy bit that gets to do matches. I mean, he's incredibly charismatic. It's someone that I would love to see on TV no matter what. So this was just such a cool development over the last week, and man, he was just so over. It was cool to see, and he's embracing it. He knows when to pull the tricks and acquiesce to the camera being in his face. He knows what he's doing, and damn, he's super over. But Worlds Collide, just short and sweet, wonderful show. Hope they can pull more of those shows off going forward. I don't know what type of time frame they could do another one in, but I'm really looking forward to it if they do it again. And this is a two-pronged thing because we did not get to discuss this on the main program. I know we touched on it, of course, on Drew and Juice. So if you caught that, great. If you didn't, too bad. But we definitely talked about Ron the Truth Killings, R-Truth, getting released a couple of weeks ago. Additionally, Carlito got released, so it was real. Everybody that got released, it was all legit. And an outpouring of support from fans and colleagues and other members of the pro wrestling community alike, showing support for R-Truth. Truth said, look, they're not going to renew my contract. And, on subsequent episodes of TV, we want Truth chants. Cena played up to that and said, you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. I'm working on my Jack Nicholson. So no one really thought anything outside of, wow, Truth really got released or they're not going to renew his deal. And how could you do that? Like, other people are in and out. Carlito was only there for 2 years again, so like that made some sense. Yet Truth's been there for well over 15 years. Why are we getting rid of this guy? Sure, he might not be on TV every week, even though he just had a world title match against John Cena on Saturday night's main event. But maybe that was his swan song. But very, very helpful in ring, out of the ring, cutting promos, comedy stuff. He's such a unique, versatile talent that you would want to have on your roster. So as this is all happening over the course of a few days, and people are just getting more and more pissed off that R-Truth got released or is gonna, eventually be released, we get to Money in the Bank. And Money in the Bank was a great, great show. I enjoyed it. I got to watch it with some members of the WWE Universe at a local establishment, and hung out with the man who is responsible for pool party gaming, which is really cool, especially considering we were kind of getting to see the scores as they happened live, and seeing some of the props that were up in the air and how they all lined up. And it was pretty cool to watch live as the show went on. And man, double congratulations to friend of the show, contributor to the show, Donnie, who not only welcomed a child into this universe this past week, but was the victor of the Money in the Bank Pool Party Gaming Pick'em Challenge. And wow, things are turning up, Donnie this past week. So congratulations twice to Donnie there, becoming a dad and also winning the pool for Money in the Bank. It was very, very close, I know. So Money in the Bank, though, Naomi gets the briefcase for the women. I think that's the right call. It was the obvious choice. The odds of her winning were, the highest. We had Octagon Jr. losing to Dom in a IC title match that kind of got spurned from Worlds Collide, and that was a 5-minute match. It really wasn't much. Becky Lynch got the win and the women's IC title against Lyra Valkyria, and Lyra had to forcibly raise Lynch's hand and acknowledge her as the better woman, which she did, even though then it turned into violence, and we'll see what happens next. But like I said a couple weeks ago and this past week, when you got Evolution coming up, you could easily make a third match the big match on this show. Or one of the big matches on the Evolution card could be the third of the trilogy between Lyra and Becky. The Money in the Bank for the men. Seth Rollins took the briefcase. Andrade, El Grande Americano, LA Knight, Penta, and Solo could not grab it. Jacob Fatu turns on Solo Sikoa. El Grande Americano had a wonderful performance. LA Knight had a wonderful performance as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Stephanie Vaquer and Roxanne Perez. Just everybody on this show really pulled out all the stops. So Seth Rollins is now Money in the Bank, Mr. Money in the Bank, with the help of, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, of course. So you knew it was bound to happen. And now he's got the briefcase again, first time since 2014, 2015, when he cashed in at Mania 31. So we shall see what it leads to. But I am under the opinion that Seth Rollins, whatever championship he does end up cashing in on, will then turn into the vehicle for CM Punk to defeat Seth Rollins for that said championship before it's all said and done. And finally, the main event, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso defeated John Cena and Logan Paul in a tag match, a really fun tag match. Logan Paul, I said this on Twitter the other night, where I think Logan Paul might be the best investment that WWE has ever made. Of like, look, we're going to have Prime logos in the ring, the Prime bottle outside the ring, but look what you're getting in the ring. Look at the moments you're getting with drones and these crazy shots and the unbelievable moonsault seemingly just out of nowhere from Logan Paul. So he is a hell of a performer. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in these big moments. We're not going to see Logan Paul versus Cena for the world title, at least not yet, but I think that could be down the pike. They had some confusion, and who knows what that could lead to. I would like to see a Cena-Paul match, but with time running out on Cena's retirement, it remains to be seen if that match could even happen. But this match was interrupted to tie it all back to what I started this segment with, quote unquote. A man in a disguise, a hooded sweatshirt and jeans came in, attacked Cena, and lo and behold, it was R-Truth. Now going, he's R-Truth, but he's going by Ron Killings, which I think is perfect. So clearly this was a real non-renewal of the contract from WWE to R-Truth, and I think that not only that happened like it did, but the outrage and response from fans and talent alike, I do believe helped change course of what happened. And even if it's just a renewed contract for a year or whatever dates Ron Killings has left, I do think it was a on-purpose decision, a very deliberate one at that, to have the name Ron Killings for merch and what have you, so that whenever he does, eventually leave WWE at the end of this new deal, if there is one, reportedly, then he could go to the Indies, he could go do signings as Ron Killings, which is his real name, and not only could he, you could always say formerly R-Truth, but as Ron Killings, it's like, well, Ron Killings was just on TV. Ron Killings just had a match against John Cena, which, as of now, next week on SmackDown, you will see Ron the Truth Killings versus John Cena non-title. So, look, they did it with a lot of different things before. Cody, Daniel Bryan, Kofi Mania, Matt Hardy in 05. Like, things change. Sometimes they pivot. Sometimes WWE wants to respond. Sometimes WWE wants the fans happy. And look, it's better for Truth. It's better for the fans. Let's see if this all works out. So, Truth is now back in. He gets this match up against Cena on SmackDown. Look, and we'll talk about this as well. Also happening this past week. So after Money in the Bank on Raw, 2 days later, we had a scheduled world title match. Jey Uso versus Gunther. Gunther wins clean, center of the ring. Gunther is your new world heavyweight champion. I, for one, really like the notion of championships being won more often than not. Not that we have to have super long title reigns, or that I want title reigns to be every other week like WCW 2000 or WWF 1999. But I do like, we had a match on Raw, the title's on the line. Jay just had a tag match with Cena and Logan Paul with Cody, and God, he's so tired from all this. Of course, a guy like Gunther could take advantage of that. And that's believable. It doesn't make Jey Uso look any less than. Gunther's one of the best wrestlers in WWE right now, if not the world. So, you play these cards right. You play the matches how they should go. You take your time. You get organic moments on TV too. And I liked it. And I think it's going to mean that Gunther could be next. Maybe not last, but maybe next, as we are going to potentially get, it's been rumored for a while, Goldberg returning to WWE for his final match or matches. I would wager one of those could in fact happen in Atlanta, July 12th. Saturday night's main events. Look, I just brought up Main Event Maniacs, talking to, Brian and Jay, and they did the July 6th, 98 Nitro where Goldberg defeats Hollywood Hogan for the world title. In Atlanta at the Georgia Dome, could Goldberg do it again in Atlanta on free TV, win a world title before it's all said and done? It remains to be seen. But I think it's very, very possible, and I'm kind of intrigued by it because it could lead to a lot more. It could lead to, maybe Braun Breaker's the guy to take the world title off of Gunther. Maybe Seth wants to cash in on Braun. There's a lot going on there. Saturday night's main event is the same as that night when you've got All In Texas that day. NXT Great American Bash at the same time as All In. And then WWE Evolution is going to be Sunday night that same weekend. So that's a loaded weekend. Once again, WWE and AEW coming together for that. Very much looking forward to that. Hopefully can find somewhere to watch Saturday night's main event after All In Texas. I'm sure that won't be an issue. I think there's only a few more notes to bring up. So I do want to touch on this before we close out with the current Night of Champions card, because that's got a little bit of juice to it. Mariah May, formerly, now in NXT, and her new name, get ready, Blake Monroe. Monroe, I think, is a very easy choice, very Marilyn Monroe. That's who she kind of looks like. That's how she kind of is. And, playing up with the Hollywood ending, that was very apropos. And I believe Blake is a cousin of hers or a nephew. Someone in her family, I do believe, is named Blake. And I really like that they tapped into her, family side of it for that part of the name. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be upset about the name change, but JC Mateo and all that, it doesn't matter. These guys are going to be fine. Gunther's fine. Everybody was pissed off that Walter was changed, and now Gunther is a multi-time world champion, longest reigning intercontinental champion. What are you going to do? Let's close things out with the Night of Champions card, where we have King and Queen of the Ring back, where the winners of those respective tournaments receive a match for their respective brands' world championship at SummerSlam. Kind of akin to Royal Rumble, but in King of the Ring form. You got Seth Rollins also lurking as the Money in the Bank winner. You've got Naomi also lurking in the shadows as the Money in the Bank winner. And who knows how it's going to turn out. But as of now, for the women in the Queen of the Ring tournament. Actually, you know what? Let's something just happened in the women's title match the women's match for that Queen of the Ring. I think Alexa Bliss has won, although Alba Fire tapped out, I think, moments after that, unless they were both pinned. I don't know what happened. So Alexa Bliss apparently is in the Queen of the Ring. So let's look at it this way. Right now, the final four, one left, which is Asuka, Stephanie Vaquer, Raquel Rodriguez, or Ivy Nile. The winner of that will take on Alexa Bliss. And the winner of that match will take on the winner of Jade Cargill and Roxanne Perez, which that'll take place on SmackDown next week. On the men's side, SmackDown next week, Sami Zayn versus Randy Orton. And the winner of that will take on any of these next 8 guys. Andrade, Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Shinsuke Nakamura. That match is about to happen tonight. And Bronson Reed, Jey Uso, Rusev, and Sheamus. The winner of that takes on the winner of that first 4 I just mentioned. And they will go to the finals at Night of Champions. But that's not the biggest match of Night of Champions. The biggest match is John Cena versus CM Punk in Saudi Arabia for the undisputed WWE Championship. This is huge. We knew as long as Punk and Cena were healthy for Cena's retirement run that this is a match you had to have, and they're doing it. What's very interesting, of course, is that CM Punk has had some interesting comments in the past regarding these Saudi shows. And although recently he has been, he has stated that he's just never been to Saudi Arabia. He doesn't have any problem with Saudi Arabia at all. And I think that he's going to make the most out of this trip. He's going to go take on John Cena and try to prevent Cena from retiring as champion, where Punk left the company as champion in 2011. So these types of things are cyclical, as I always like to say. What's interesting is Cena is using this type of story that people know kind of as the premise of this whole thing. Cena saying, I'm going to ruin wrestling. You want to wrestle me? You have to follow me to Saudi Arabia to wrestle for this championship. You're not going to just get a title match for nothing. You have to earn it. You got to come all the way. Fly all the way out there. Take me on one-on-one. And then, you get that opportunity. But, Punk, Cena, they had a great match, Night of Champions 2012, where Cena and Punk, I believe, came to a draw where Punk was wearing the New York Yankees tights. I think the show was in Boston, which was Cena's backyard. Plus, it was the, Yankees Red Sox thing. So, man, this is just great to see them run it back at a show they've done already. They've done Night of Champions, and it's in their past already. And I don't anticipate CM Punk winning. I anticipate it being a good match for sure. But who knows where it ends? Who knows where it leads? I'm looking forward to it. I believe the show will be around 1 o'clock Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't done, they haven't really given us those times yet. But just for posterity, to keep everybody in the realm of what we are aware of here, this is the 13th event that WWE has put on in Saudi Arabia, which is their 10-year partnership with Saudi Vision 2030. And it's actually the only pay-per-view and live streaming event in Saudi for 2025, really only because the following January in 2026 is going to be the Royal Rumble in Saudi. So, no need to have something in June and then November. They're going to run it back to January. You're going to get Crown Jewel, which normally takes place in Saudi Arabia, in Perth this year in October, where you'll get to see another big match with Cena. And I do believe this might be John Cena's last appearance at Night of Champions, his last pay-per-view and live streaming appearance in Saudi Arabia. So it's going to be a big deal for Cena, for these fans, and for the Night of Champions brand as a whole. This is the last time, as they've been branding it. The last time is now. They're going all in for this promotion for Cena, and I think they should. I think, in large, the heel turn has been a little bit wanting, a little bit lackluster. I think it peaked at Elimination Chamber, unfortunately, but now, we're past Truth, although that kind of rekindled some good stuff in the last week or so we'll see what happens. But past that, we got the Orton match. Cody is still around. That's going to happen at some point. And you also know, we get this Punk match as well. So things are starting to pick up. Hopefully, things will start lining up to where we can gauge when this title reign could end, or if Cena will turn back by the end of it. What all that looks like. Could Boston Saturday Night's Main Event in December be the spot? How does that look? I think we only have 17 more dates for John Cena. Time's running out. The last time is now. I'm so here for it. Wow. And I was here for the Juice Box. Hopefully you guys were here as well. We talked about a lot of random stuff, a hodgepodge, if you will, AEW, WWE. I know I mentioned TNA coming to Pittsburgh next Friday and Saturday. That's going to be great. If you're in the area, go check it out. Live wrestling is always better than watching it on TV, and TNA has not been in this area for 10 years. I know Belle Vernon's not necessarily Pittsburgh, but Western PA, they have not been here since then, 10 years ago. So looking forward to TNA next week, Monday Night Raw, and a SmackDown taping the week after that, and then All In Texas a couple weeks after that. So a lot going on this summer. It's going to be happening, as Gorilla Monsoon would say. But as always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Subscribe to the Juice Box on YouTube at JuicySteen. And if you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, or juicysteen.podbean.com. That's where you can listen to it. And if you listen to it on any of those where you could leave a rating and review, please do so. It takes maybe a minute or two, and it really helps the show grow, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, we got Main Event Maniacs, 3 at least episodes coming out, potentially a 4th one in the next 4 weeks, so be on the lookout for those. The guys have done a great job thus far, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear Judgment Day 05, Cena, JBL, Goldberg, Hogan from Nitro, July 6, 98, and Super Brawl 3, featuring yours truly in the Juice Box, in the Main Event Maniacs circle, under the Juice Box umbrella for Vader and Sting. So looking forward to pushing those out so you guys can hear. Love Brian and Jay's input and perspective on pro wrestling. That's why they're under the Juice Box umbrella. Once again, congratulations to Donnie for winning Money in the Bank's pool party pick'em. We'll have another pool party pick'em for Night of Champions. And of course, congratulations to Donnie as well for being a father, if I haven't mentioned that already. So, for Juice Springsteen, this has been the Juice Box. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and saddle up for another 6+ weeks of great wrestling stuff all across the board, all companies. Check into Drew and Juice next week. But as for me, I'm Juice Springsteen, and I'll check in with you guys next week for another edition of the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.